Welcome to Arts Talk TV, connecting you to the world that is art. Hi, welcome to Arts Talk TV. I'm Karina Lawrence. We're here at Miami Marquetta, which is an incredible arts hub here on the Gold Coast in Queensland. It has some awesome vibes about it, some great entertainment, live music, so make sure you check it out if ever you're in the area. Next up on the show, we have a very special guest who's quite close to my heart. I potentially met her when she was around 8 or 9, initially teaching her in singing and dancing. Please welcome to Arts Talk TV, Courtney Monsma.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure. Now we actually have our very own Australian Disney princess with us right now, don't we?
We do.
I can't tell you how proud I am to have seen you blossom and grow from that very talented young lady into a beautiful young woman, and you're definitely getting a pretty good range of shows to your belt already in the professional world. Let's go back a little bit. Obviously with your training, you featured a lot in dance, but you grew up in musical theatre shows.
Yeah, so first thing I did was going to dance class when I was about 4 into Tiny Tots and just absolutely fell in love with the energy and the people my friends that I would make, and we were so like-minded. I just loved it. Then it got to the point where I would see a community theatre ad for a musical in the newspaper, which is funny thinking about it now, and begging my parents to take me, like watching old movie musicals like that I would get from my grandparents, like Seven Brides for Seven Brothers and Oklahoma, and I'd watch all these movies at home, and I just fell in love with musical theatre. So then for the next many years I was immersing myself in community theatre around the Gold Coast, which was so rewarding. It was not necessarily lessons, but the lessons it taught me were just mammoth, that just really helped me understand what I wanted to do with my life. It really taught me to respect the people that I was working with from a young age. Even though it was community theatre, like the people that I got to work with were often a lot older than me, and I would learn to respect what they did and take on the information that they would give me that is so invaluable. The connections I've made, and now that I'm growing up, just reconnecting with those people, it's so special.
So you decided once you finished school to go and study at the Queensland Conservatorium. How long was the course?
3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a Bachelor of Musical Theatre course, and when you're in school, I feel like year 12, you have to know exactly what you're doing, and I already definitely did, but with performing in theatre, there isn't necessarily a single path, and I think the university to me seemed like a path to reach my job. Like, you do a degree in engineering and then you hopefully get a job in engineering. So I think I had that mindset, but then while studying, I realized it doesn't necessarily matter. It's just about how you train. It's not about where you train.
Did that training and being in that environment under the direction of those people, do you feel like that opened doors for you as opposed to potentially just going out and trying to find your own connections?
Yeah, no, it totally changed my life. I think dedicating everything I had to this course just showed me how much I wanted it. The opportunities that came from the connections I made, I would not have had the opportunity to make without the course. It kind of breaks you down to form you back together almost in a more professional state, and by using those 3 years to not put myself out there necessarily in front of the people, by the time I was ready, it just put me in the best light to then have the career that I'm lucky to have now.
You were cast even then with lead roles. You played Charity in Sweet Charity, Carmen in The Life, Maria in West Side Story.
I think getting the role was actually the first step, really. You always think, with anything, it's about that success and that achievement, but the role isn't the achievement, it's performing the role, and when it's done, that's the achievement, It was a lot of hard work, and I just loved that experience of just immersing myself into the role, and I wasn't thinking about the things I could do, I was thinking about the things I wanted to get better from the second that I got the role, and it just taught me that even in a university setting, if I approach this process to the real world as such, I can get so much more out of a role than just achieving it and then just doing it. I think that's the difference in a performance that you do watch or that you connect to and that you don't forget.
Yeah.
And I always think aiming for that is why theatre is so magical.
you debuted with the Australian tour of Mamma Mia. You were understudying the role of Sophie, and I know you got to play that because you wanted me to come watch you, you know? So the tour of Disney's Aladdin's where you actually understudied and played Princess Jasmine. And now you're going to be in Frozen, just not Frozen the musical, the Australian debut of playing Anna. It's like,
insane.
It's magic.
It is
you
magic, yeah.
Where do you go when you need to get into that role? Do you just go into the fantasy, the moment of it? Like, what do you draw upon?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think there is two sides to it, you know. Even though you do a performance once and you feel really immersed, I think there's a damaging part of that, of going really method with the feeling of the circumstance of the show and then having to recreate that 8 times a week. You need to have a line to protect yourself and protect your energy. And I think the thing and the moment that I realized that I could help myself was when I was going for roles and I was being myself and I was using what came naturally to me for these roles, for Anna, for every audition I stepped into, I just was the best version of myself. Connection to yourself, knowing who you are, because that applies to absolutely every role, because every role is a human being in time, but they know who they are. So if you're being an incomplete version, trying to be something else, that will never feel complete.
Let's go to your more recent role. So you played Catherine Howard in the original production of Six the Musical. I mean, it was a modern version of a really cleverly written part of history.
Yeah, it is, and I think having that element of history to connect to was so exciting and fascinating. So yeah, based on the 6 wives of Henry VIII, and themes of, you know, girl power, which is so relevant to what we used to do in Zoopco. And I think something that I just have to say now that helped me so much with that experience. It's like I was looking into a mirror of what I'd been through Zoopco, and it was about looking around the room and admiring the amazing women that I was with, and that is what the show was about, and that's why the show works. And I'd like to think that's why I was placed in the show. It was that ability to connect with other women and to celebrate their success as well as your own, and there's nothing like girl power. Like, it's just, it's its own energy. I have to mention as well with Six, it gave me so much as a person, but also to see the impact it had on the people watching the show and the people that followed the show just was a prime example of that, you know, having these people from all over the world connect to this piece of music, and then gave me this connection with, you know, these amazing fans overseas, and experiencing that just showed me how powerful what we do is and how it's not about us, it's about everyone. It's not just a personal experience, it's about what others get from it. You know, you go to the theatre to escape. We perform often to escape or be the best version of ourselves, so everyone gets something different out of it.
How important you feel learning is from mentors and opportunities that come from that, like that influence, I guess?
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on it with, you know, how my professional experiences in my later life parallel so directly to the influences I had growing up. And if I had blocked out those influences, I wouldn't have been given those opportunities because I wouldn't have known, you know. I think any chance to learn and any mentor you're given is just like a gift, and there's so much you can learn from the people around you, and I think having that respect for those people is so important. And it's so easy to think that you achieve a certain level and you forget those things, but they are the reason that you are there.
We touched briefly a little bit about energy. You wanted to kind of talk about how that affected you and coming back to your self-care. There's sort of things that add to pressure. It can be really concerning, like just basic stuff like having to cook and eat, maintaining a healthy lifestyle with good foods and managing washing your clothes and different things like that.
Literally,
you know?
Yeah, and I think with my choice to study in my hometown, it was that half environment where I could still go home, and I didn't realise how much I needed that when I was, you know, often packed a suitcase and I was off to Sydney and doing this professional show that was my dream, but then I'd come home and I just feel so homesick, and it's that supportive environment that you have, and when it's away you realise that you need to learn to find a new way to still connect with that.
What about pressures of the industry? How do you overcome them?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? I think a lot of it can come from yourself, and I know that sounds a bit silly because yes, there are so many pressures and you're expected to be a certain thing, but I think a lot of that comes personally.
Like creating your story in your head that...
Yeah, I think of wanting to be something that you think people want you to be. And for so long, I would be, working so hard of being this image of what I thought I needed to be. And the second I was myself, opportunities came.
Interesting.
It was, and like even just saying it out loud makes me, I'm still like, wow, that is so true.
Yeah.
And it is true, and there is pressures. There is so many pressures, but if you, once again, know who you are and know what you can do and just be the best version of what you can do.
It's trusting yourself and trusting your own path as well.
Definitely.
Ultimately.
Yeah, and I think when you do feel lost, it's so easy to give into those pressures because you don't believe in yourself. So yeah.
You're in the role and an opportunity that is going to enhance your career. Frozen, just the movie is like, it's affected children all over the world, and you're going to be that princess to those girls. And I mean, talking about the theme of girl power, like that relationship with those sisters and what it projects to young children is really empowering and great.
Myself and so many people get so much out of going to the theatre and art. And as a performer, there's so many hardships, but you're always thinking about the positive side because you do it because you love it. You know, if I wanted to give up when someone critiqued me, I would be like, okay, I'm done. This is almost like one of those things, like if you want it, and even when the environment might not be created, it's about creating it for yourself and doing things that keep you inspired and keep you creative, and that's fulfilled that outlet. So I think it's taught me how much it's part of me and how much I love it.
I feel like it's really difficult for up and coming performers with the mental health side of things. Has it ever played a part in your doubts, in the sense of taking rejection, for example, personally, or like how do you go through that? I mean, you've obviously had a lot of successful auditions. For the ones that haven't?
I do feel like there is a time where we need to take ourselves out of that and just acknowledge that that's not all I am as a person. You can get so, if I don't get a role, I have been so like down and so like hating towards myself because I'm not good enough, and because I'm not good enough, I care about it so much, that brings all that there. But if you take yourself away from that and have that externally, be like, okay, what can I do to be better? And that's that side of me and that skill, but it's not necessarily me or my worth. And that's still something I'm learning, to be honest. And I think it is important to know how to deal with rejection as well, just for your own self, because the industry we put ourselves in, we're putting our power in the hands of people we can't control.
And it isn't personal. I know from being on the other side, sometimes it's just,
hair colour.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
That simple. So
I think learning to also, and Six taught me this very well, is like, just life, learning to admire everyone's talent as well. It just gives you good perspective of that rejection, knowing that the person getting the job is the person that deserved the job, and if they're not, that's the circumstance, and there's nothing you can do to change that. So putting that back on yourself isn't going to serve you in the future, and that, once again, I'm still learning, but it's nice to say.
I think it's that mindset of realizing there is enough space for everybody, because we are all on our unique individual path, because that's who we are. So I think if you embrace that, then it's easier to deal with. I think it's the disappointment. If you can take the disappointment, but then taking it personally, it's a healthy opportunity. All right, so are you ready for our Shutter Speed Challenge? Courtney, last song you listened to?
Taylor Swift.
What does creativity mean to you?
Everything.
Person you most like to meet?
Judy Garland. Obviously I can't meet her, but I just would have loved to have met her.
What question would you ask her?
What her experience was like, because I know there was so much stuff that happened behind the scenes, and I think she could teach me a lot.
Wow. Last piece of art that really affected you?
Dear Evan Hansen on Broadway, actually.
If you had to label creativity with a colour, what would it be? Pink! What would you miss most about the arts?
The platform to express myself.
Great answer. What's on your bedside table?
Chocolate.
Is that all?
No, also, I'll tell you the other things. A lamp is on my bedside table. A book, actually, I'm reading
What book?
The Power of the Actor. It's like an acting book. It's really interesting, actually. Yeah. Look, I haven't read it all, but I will. That's why it's there, to remind me.
Yeah, good. What chore do you most dislike doing?
Every chore. Cleaning, just in general, I would say. Organising
I like
things.
cleaning.
I know, I feel like...
So meditational.
It is now, I'm learning that a bit more, but I just do resist it for some reason. I need to unpack why I resist cleaning. I don't know why.
It makes everything shiny and organised, and then your brain is too.
There's two types of people with this one.
Okay, in one word, what does the arts mean to you?
I'm taking my time, but I know what I'm saying. The arts means everything to me.
Thank you so much, Courtney. It has been an absolute honour and a privilege to share this time with you. And as I said, I'm so proud of everything that you have continued to blossom into. You've got a long-standing career, and you're definitely a very special young lady.
Thank you for having me, and also I hope I did express enough that you have had such an impact as personally and as a performer as well. So I have so many thanks for you.
So glad you could join us today on our Arts channel.